you do. My name is Vladimir Mordovin, and before I start, I'd like to ask you two things. First, raise your hands, those who are leads. And running intake streams, please raise your hands, the juniors, so those who only started their testing career. Well, why I'm asking that, I have to understand the level of the audience. Maybe I will say something that you know quite well, maybe I will tell you about something new, but okay. My name is Vladimir Mordovin. I'm representing wargaming company, studio in St. Petersburg. My career in testing, officially, I started with World of Warships project. I started as a junior and in the Department of Interface Testing, and then made my career to the lead. I acquired a lot of skills, good experience, and then I was transferred to another project as a head of the testing department. This is a World of Warships. It's also about ships, but on consoles. So today I'd like to talk about development of how to develop, how to train an expert, and how to estimate where he's just a good specialist or he's already an expert, where he can set the rules himself or he has to listen to his leads, more to the developers, whether he can use intuition or only the real data. And today we'll talk about the Pyramid of Competencies. Why is it a pyramid? Because we have the area of the scope of reference, and there are some adjacent areas, and first you develop this core area, this core competence, and then you develop the other auxiliary ones, because the development of an expert or a person, it's not like narrow. You have to develop in several areas, maybe complex areas at once. For example, you develop an expert in interfaces, game logic. So you are involved in the project, you work in it, you develop, and then step by step you develop an expert. That's how it happens. And that always we get something new. Some areas which you will have to encounter in the future, which you will come to know in the future, and then you will improve your skill as a whole. Like, during my career in many projects, I was many times asked, and where can I get the information about something new? Where can I get the knowledge to develop? Because we cannot just come and start working, right? Because somebody says, well, I need some experience, working experience. And where can we get it, right? Sources are everywhere. I think that juniors and leads both know the sources on the internet. We have books, we have many resources, and the development of an expert is not only in testing. It's important to improve yourself not only as a whole, but in the narrow subject, in the narrow area where you work.
I remember myself when I started to work as the junior person, and I was quite inexperienced in testing. I thought testing is very easy, especially to test the interface, and I started to learn how the interface are being designed. What is important to know to be able to speak with the designers, with the developers in the same language? I had to learn about the laws of design, how the project architecture is being built, and what information I could get from this. I even wrote reports and made presentations. I wrote presentations how to build interface. I did it not on purpose. I didn't do it because I had to talk to somebody because, okay, I'm smart. I was writing these reports to structure my knowledge and to be able to apply them in the practical world. So I wasn't a junior, but I was not yet a middle level. And I have come to understanding that we are all practitioners. We need practice in addition to the theory, and there are certain tools which work. All testers are tool users. One of their key instrumentation is test trail, and the test trail is the test documentation management system tool. I have many acquaintances who tell me that they're writing down their cases either in the Word format or in Excel sheet format. Somebody just put them down in a notebook and using this information. But it's essential to have a tool, to have a toolkit which you know well how to use. Sometimes you understand that one checklist is enough and you are able to use the checklist, or when you need to have a set of suits with the cases written down in detail how to use them. The same applies to all other instruments, such as the backtrackers, the documentation management system, virtual environments, continuous integration systems, and of course the version control system. I think you're all using different ones. We use ESVN, we have the JIT. Even the text editor is a tool that one has to learn. It does help, but it's a tool and one needs to learn how to apply it. Also, there are special project tools such as developers' tools, helping to perform certain transactions. They can also help to create a couple of accounts, to test more cases, to have more options for the test cases. In our projects we have editors. We have editors of ships, of boats, of effects. And while learning more and more how to use different tools, we're continuing to develop further. I'd like to tell you about the white box. So please apologize if I'm a bit messy, and I'll explain why I talk about the white box and why it is white. This is because when we see the changes in the client, we also trying to see the output, meaning what happened. But once we're reading the code, or at least making an attempt to read the code, we're trying to understand how corrections were made, and we're trying to develop ourselves, and we are moving forward. We are making progress. Last week, I brought this is an example from my last week's bug. Oh, it's nice that we started the project and now I'm able to use the screenshots. Please have a look at this bug screen. This is quite simple. Here, even the text goes beyond the boundaries of the screen, but if you open up the div, this is what you see. There's a block describing the impossibility to install a module. This block has a feature, it has width. And we further see that in the output the text is transferred. It works quite simple. But if we analyze how fix was done, you could see that the bug could be just fixed in a different way. You can only move a line in the localization and make the correct transfer. Then in the output, the outcome will be the same. But if there are more localizations, if it's not only English and Russian versions, in Legends now English, French, English, Russian and Japanese languages. And it wouldn't help if we only localize it in Deutsch, in the German language, because otherwise it would be different in the Japanese language. Here, looking at how a developer solved a fix, we see that we don't need any longer to track other changes. There is no need to follow up with other screens and other windows. So this is a very precise fix. That's the end. My experience suggests that after a couple of years of work, I became responsible for their localization. In addition, I started to work in preparation releases. We were ready to production and we were preparing a patch. I went through the show log, I checked what we had inside, and I reviewed what requires to be double checked, and I saw that one of the fixes needs localization, that we will have to add a couple of other lines so that it would look beautiful. But at that time, the ships already had about 10 languages. It meant that we either put it in the Google and do translation via Google, but I'm not really good at Japanese, so it would be better to do it all correctly from the start. And if we do it correctly, it will take a long time. And it means we would have to make a patch. So I reverted this procedure, and a software developer, it's a guy, he came to me, but it was not a guy, it was a girl actually, and I told her everything what we did for localization and how it will affect the soft. Yes, it wasn't the perfect solution, but we went to production. The fix was not good enough. And the fix related to localization went into the later version, but it's okay if some fixes are transferred in later versions, and it's okay to communicate with the developers and speak their language. After that, I felt myself an expert in interface testing and expert in localization. How? Here, we'll recall once again our pyramid. Yes, I'm the expert. Yes, I'm cool. And after that, I was able to talk to the designers and to the developers, not from the position, oh guys, let's fix this. I could come to them and tell them, let's fix this in that way, because it would be easier, it would be simpler. Understanding and knowledge how to fix a bug came to me during my work. Because every day when I came to work, I was checking what we had in our discussion stream, what changes were made. And when I started a client, I thought to myself, wow, great, we could continue work with this. So step by step, if we analyze the competence, we can say that a specialist has skills and knowledge in his area of responsibility. That's why a knowledge from their other areas could be not the deep, the just surface knowledge, but still it's knowledge. And the specialist could be confident of what he does. He could be dependent. And we are only checking at certain points at the beginning, in the middle of the process, or at the end. At the end, we might see, wow, this is such an experienced guy. He's like a real wild wolf who has eaten enough meat. He knows how to work in his field. He speaks almost the same language with the developers. And the knowledge in their interdisciplinary knowledge is also available, and such specialists become mentors. Why I call it mentoring and not teaching? Because if we talk about mentoring, a mentee is responsible for his student. He is trying to teach him and to make him a professional and expert of a high level. An example of expertise is that when a developer comes and asks me, oh, please do a review, and you could just come and tell him, well, everything is okay. Or you may say, oh, no, I don't yet know how to do it. Let's call Kirill and let's do it together with Kirill. And this is also acceptable because you know each other and he knows that you are experienced, that you are aware and you are well aware of the subject. Of course, independence is something that it's not even worth mentioning, because if an expert is given a task, he has to perform the task. Then we talk about their area management. That is, a manager or a team knows that a person who has expert knowledge in his field can manage his area of expertise. He knows how to prioritize a task. He knows what follows what. He knows that at this particular time it is more important to fix a bug and not to test a feature. After that, expert has a couple of trainees. He took some of these trainees from the very beginning of his mentoring activity. Some of them joined later, but still such trainees are always needed and mentors are needed, because you have to tell people, okay, do it in this way, change here something, or let's wait, you need to learn more. But altogether, all these people are a team. If you're the only tester on the project or in your team, you still have a team, you still have the developers, designers, and managers behind you. Right now, I'm talking about the QA team. And there are certain milestones and certain important persons in the team. It's important to set up a set of rules, like thinking, meetups, reports, dumps. When we talk about how we develop and transfer the knowledge, I say I know how to do it, and I want to share this knowledge with everyone. I want my team to improve their knowledge, to build capacity, to get more expertise, and we're having a cool team afterwards. Each person has individual skills, and one person may be very good at working with service. You may always ask him for support. Another person is a great expert in databases. He knows how to handle all databases requests, and you begin to learn from him, and you're trying to get something from each of your team members. Good things which will help you in your further work. Support is also important in a team, especially team support, because if something is not working well, and I'm talking about the whole team structure and about the mentoring as well, we have to see how team members support each other. This all helps to develop the team. If we talk about the interoperability, let's get back to the pyramid. Once your colleague develops and gets more knowledge from the other areas, you can always support, stand by, or do work instead of a colleague. A person may be on half sick, or may be on holiday, maybe on leave. Then somebody could cover him, and you could cover him because you already know, maybe not in detail, but at least you know what kind of work he does because you had experience of working with this. And this is the area, and this is the way how one develops. While transferring knowledge and while exchanging the knowledge, we are developing ourselves and we are developing our team. It is true, not everything works from start and not everything works well. It happens. Please have a look at this simple development diagram. It shows the time and level for development. As a rule, at the beginning, we have certain experience and we start from certain level. It may tend to 0, or it may tend to an endless level, but it's still going on. A specialist is being formed within the team. He learns how the workflow is organized. He learns how project work and company's work is organized. He's being given tasks.
Бывает, на каком-то этапе пошел спад и пытаешься поддерживать, что-то делать, но спад пошел. Тут, я думал, что же сюда ставить, я вспомнил одну хорошую статью, без рекламы, кто-то знает, а кто-то, если захочет, узнает. Это правило 4 дней. Одно из первых – это нечеткая цель. Просто нет понимания, к чему стремиться, что сделать, чего нужно добиться. А постановка задач с четкими целями и с estimation – это основа процесса. Человек может просто не уметь. Здесь мы будем возвращаться опять к наставничеству. помогать, направлять, подсказывать, где что нужно сделать, учить, передавать. Здесь больше про ресурсы, что просто не хватает времени, или он может быть загружен задачами. Они все приоритеты. Ну и напоследок он просто не хочет. Сидит и не хочет делать. И там разные, может просто человек понравился задачу.
And sometimes person just doesn't want
Они там с кем-то же тоже вместе идут.
to
И все это
be
приводит к
involved
ущербу.
with this or work with some
На первый
colleagues,
план у нас
and all
выходит
this
проект.
causes losses or damages.
То есть нет
Damages can be
результата.
project
У нас
damage,
двигаются сроки.
and we
Да,
can
и
know
мы как специалисты
results.
по
We need
тестированию,
the
ну, на выходе мы получаем
deadline is postponed,
качество.
and at the
Да.
output we get
Так себе
low
качество.
quality products.
А помимо проектного, еще и моральный ущерб.
And another type of
Команда
damage
смотрит
is
на
moral
человека,
damage.
которого тащит,
Team
а он не хочет.
looks at the person
И
who is
говорит, что не
actually
может,
dragged
и не
by other
хочет.
team members, and he can
И это, наверное, самое
perform
плохое,
better,
потому
but
что
he just
ну,
doesn't want to.
наша
And
команда,
this is the worst
а команда должна
what
быть
can
вместе,
happen because this is a team
для
and
себя.
everybody in the team
Что же
has to
необходимо
support
делать?
the mates.
Конечно, не
So
оставлять это
what
без внимания.
shall we do in this case?
Нужно общаться, искать
We
направления,
have to
которые будут
communicate, we
интересны.
have to look for
Привлекать коллег.
solutions, we have to
Если
involve
видно, что
colleagues in
коллеги
this
косячат,
process. Because if you
может
see that
раз за разом косяк на косяке.
your colleague makes some mistakes
Как вы
repeatedly,
говорили,
then you have to talk
почему это
to
рассказываю,
him,
что это тоже пример из жизни.
explain him, and this
С людьми
is
надо
also
общаться,
a
и
practical
с людьми надо говорить.
case example.
А бывало такое, то, что
We have to talk
не
to
хватает
others,
разговора с тобой.
but
И
sometimes
привлекаешь не
talking is
руководителя,
not enough.
или,
Then you have to involve
ну,
managers
коллегу, у
or
которого,
colleagues who
который вызывает уважение.
is like a role model.
Вот. О, быстро это настало.
So it was very
Что
fast
хотелось мне сказать всем этим
indeed. So
про развитие? Мне хотелось сказать,
what
что
actually
нужно двигаться вперед.
I want to tell
Нужно
you
постоянно
by
развиваться.
all this, you
Нужно
have to move forward
наращивать скиллы, наращивать
continuously.
знания.
You have to
И
improve your skills
стараться читать код.
Grow
Одно из
meat.
основных.
on the backbone.
Знать,
And
когда можно увеличить
learn how to
покрытие
read the code, how
тестами
to
всего
improve
клиента
coverage
одним просмотром
with tests
того изменения, которое пришло вам для проверки.
for your customer by
И
making just one change,
Развиваться,
one
знать, когда ты будешь
modification, and
специалистом. Знать, когда ты будешь
developing. You
экспертом.
have to understand when you really become a specialist,
Знать, когда
when you
нужно
actually become
где-то
an expert. So you
затащить
have to
или
set
защитить фичу.
targets,
А
when
где-то
you have
опустить это
to
и сказать, нет,
protect a feature sometimes.
Давай
Sometimes you
второе.
have to remove it
вот.
or
И тогда, да, ты
upgrade
будешь
it
судить
so
судья.
that you use it practically. So you have to be a lawyer,
Вот.
a judge.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Вопросы?
Вопросы? За ваши вопросы будет подарок.
The winner will get a t-shirt for the best question.
Всем привет, зовут
Hello,
меня Сергей.
My name is Sergey.
Система
I
Jet.
represent
У меня до
Steam
этого
Jet
был
company. Earlier I had the experience of
из этого
working
возникает
in
вопрос.
game there.
Вот вы рассказывали про то, что
And,
нужно уметь обрубать фичу.
You say that sometimes you have to
Это на
remove or
уровне
cancel feature.
работы с
It's like
программистом, то есть там, с контакта с
level
разработчиком. А что если обрубание фичи
developer
конфликтует с интересами
programmer.
бизнеса?
Well, but
Фича
if
анонсирована,
removing
дата
a
фичи
feature
известна,
contradicts
ее
the
ждут
objectives
и
of the business
конкретно
model,
в моем
for
кейсе,
example, the feature
кстати,
being promoted,
интерфейс
announced,
на 25%.
gamers wait for it,
Мы не
and
успеваем это править, а реализм
sometimes we cannot
и здесь
improve the feature.
не сильно помогает.
It
Как,
has already
как быть и
increased
что делать?
the number of users by
Спасибо.
25%, and then what
Нет,
can we
здесь
do?
вопросов
We
нет.
want to be able to
И таких примеров масса.
fix it before the release.
Есть
Well,
такие,
there are examples like that. I
ну,
understand what you
самое
mean.
хорошее понятие исключение. Ты
So-called
понимаешь, что все
exclusion.
плохо, но на тебя
When you understand that
свалился груз
everything is
ответственности,
bad, but
который
you
давит.
have to bear the
Не то, что ты
responsibility, and this is the
как ты это сделать
responsibility.
хорошо.
Not
У тебя там
it
руководитель,
doesn't mean that you just
еще
have
один
want to do something
здесь еще
well,
один
but you
руководитель,
have
а
a lot
здесь
of
еще
managers
два инвестора, которые
above
пришли и
you, and
сказали,
also two investors who are
это
already
будет
here
здорово.
and
Это нужно было.
saying
Нельзя.
that we want to earn on that, on these
Да.
features, but this is they are not working. They
Также
are
примеры из
not
работы,
good.
ну, вкратчи уходили.
So another example is
Надо
that
запиши.
we
Неделя,
used
неделя,
crunches
12 часов. своего
So we
20-часового рабочего
worked
дня без
for
выходных.
12, sometimes 24
Чтобы это
hours,
возможно.
no weekends to
Да.
improve it.
Потому что иногда тебе
Within
не
the
хватает
time
именно времени.
You have, because normally you just don't
Здесь,
have
да,
enough time to
работа
fix.
слишком.
So,
Самое
but
главное
here you have
слушать,
to
да.
distribute the resources correctly, and the resources, I mean,
Ответил?
people and time. Have I
Ну, наверное,
answered your
ожидаемо.
question?
Да. Да. Еще?
Anything else?
Да. Спасибо большое за доклад. Такой вопрос. Почему рассматривали только две требования?
Why
Адвокат, судья.
have you
Ну, они, я понимаю, что, скорее всего,
considered only two roles, like a lawyer,
противоположно друг другу, да, они защищают друг
defender,
друга.
and the judge?
Нет такой роли, как следователь,
But
инспектор.
why haven't you mentioned the
А,
investigator, for example?
Если честно, я даже не
Are
думал.
there any other roles?
Исследователь, инспектор.
I don't think
А,
about
наверное,
inspectors
это
and investigators.
основная.
Probably these were
Ты
just two
прежде
main
чем ты
roles.
становишься
Before
или
you
адвокатом, или судьей,
become a
ты
lawyer
в
or
первую очередь
judge,
сначала
you
исследователь и инспектор, который
become
должен добиться
investigator
результата.
and inspector who
И
needs to get
уже
some
потом,
result.
на выходе,
And
когда
only
вы все
after
получили,
that,
и
after
уже
you get
получил
the
все
result,
необходимые
so
данные,
you have
вот
to
тогда ты уже переключаешься на защищать или убить.
so you have
Ну, в первую
to
очередь,
decide
ты
whether
инспектор,
to
исследователь.
defend or to punish or take some decision
Две роли это уже
like a
верхний.
judge.
Адвокат, судья это уже верхний роль.
Ну да, это конечно.
Okay,
Уже.
so this is the final rule.
Спасибо.
Well,
Там был пункт про
So
то,
there
что
was
вы оцениваете,
the
как
point that
переводить на другой уровень сотрудников.
you
Как
make
именно
how
вы
you can
оцениваете,
transfer
что
your
он
employees to the next
достиг
level?
нужных
But
компетенций,
how can you sense that he reached competencies in the
В первую очередь это идет от самостоятельности,
adjacent
и как
areas?
раз
But
тех самых точек
it
контроля,
depends
которые
on the
необходимы
independence and then
для
the points of control which are necessary
отслеживания
to monitor,
работы
to track
специалиста.
the
Если он на протяжении какого-то времени
work
он
of
уже
an
получил
expert.
проектный
Because
опыт,
if
он уже
this
знает,
person
как
got
все это
some
делается, и он
experience in
самостоятельно
projects, he knows
единица.
how to do that, he's an
Здесь начинается
independent
уже переход. Когда он
expert
становится
and
более старшим специалистом,
then he becomes
а
a senior
когда он
expert,
становится экспертом, когда ему
and then
можно
the
уже
experts
доверить
of this
направление
step-by-step development
тоже с минимальными контрольными движениями.
also with
Еще вопросы?
little info points as possible.
Скажите, пожалуйста, вот вы сказали, что
Please, right. So you said that sometimes you have to work 12 hours, no weekends.
А,
How
Сразу
do
скажу,
you
не все
motivate your
готовы.
team to do that? Not
Да.
everybody is ready to actually
А
work 24/7.
мотивация
The motivation
в разных случаях разная.
can
То
be
есть это
different
может
in
быть
different
какая-то
cases.
финансовая
It
мотивация,
can be
а
financial,
может быть
or,
просто давайте эту неделю затащим,
Да.
даешь.
for example,
Это все
just
зависит
let's
от
do
того,
it.
кто
and
готов работать в
it
кранче,
depends
а
on
кто,
whether person is
с
ready to
кем
work
можно еще
in a
дополнительно
crunch
поработать.
or
люди
Not.
довольны, что они
maybe
готовы.
he will
А
be
зачастую
ready to do that
все
later.
надеются за проект.
Yeah, but normally
Поэтому
people
дотащить
are eager to
есть
support
просто
the
понимание,
project,
наверное,
to
рост
drag
в
the
проекте
project
и его
to the
развитие людей в проекте.
goal.
Они
So that's why
оставляют
development
какое-то
of people
чувство
within the project,
ответственности за проект.
it's like matter
Поэтому с
of the
этого все
responsibility for the project,
Можно еще один вопрос?
people
Вот, вы приводили пример про
participating in
человека,
it.
который
Also, you mentioned the
работает,
example of a person
хотел,
who
да,
works
рутинно работает. Беседы, например, ну, чаще всего такие люди
like
не
he
реагируют,
doesn't
да,
want
даже
to
после разговора продолжают вот так же,
work
чем это заканчивается у вас.
А,
fascinated, and you have to talk to
Есть
him to explain him.
Вот,
But
у меня в
how
работе
do you
есть
normally do this?
два примера.
And do you
Один
get a
это
new
когда
result because a
пришли
person
человеку
normally
его,
doesn't want
направление, и
to
все,
work
он
to
начал
talk.
приходить на работу
There
с
were-
горящими глазами.
there are
такой, «Фу-фу-фу,
examples when
ну что ты
we
быстро, ты что пришел такой довольный? У меня на работушка моя любимая.
uh,
А есть
sometimes we succeeded to
плохой
explain
пример, да. Пришлось расстаться с человеком.
to
Он просто
such a
ну,
person that
не получалось
motivate
выправить.
him,
И
and
он нашел
he
себя в другой компании.
got
Он
really
начал заниматься вообще
motivated. He
общаем.
was coming to the
Ну, в прошлом году мы с ним встречались, случайно пересеклись, а у него
with
все
burning
хорошо.
eyes, and
Ну,
another
я,
person,
да, я
he
просто
had to
год
leave
занимался и
because
хотел этим
we had
заниматься.
to fire
Именно
him,
этим
but
заниматься. Вот он нашел себе
afterwards he
job, да,
changed
другой.
the job in another company, and there he got really motivated, and afterwards he explained that
Ребят, привет.
just
Все еще Илья.
did what he was not up
Вопрос
to.
может не совсем по адресу, но интересно было услышать непосредственно ваше мнение на такую ситуацию. Как можно жить в парадигме постоянного улучшения качественного
Oh, can
проекта?
you explain?
Поясню,
Can
что
you
я
live in the
имею в виду.
paradigm of
В условиях
continuous worsening of the quality of the
конкурентного
project?
рынка определенных отраслей, в том числе
Because when the
виды, да,
competitive
вот,
market,
если не брать ваш
some
проект в
areas
виде
is changing.
кораблей, есть там
I mean,
танки,
if
да,
we
есть самолеты,
talking
у них
about,
прямые
like, for example,
конкуренты,
you
там,
have ships,
да.
but there are some games with tanks.
Все сводится к тому, что
planes.
это превращается в гонку за
normally,
фичами. У нас новый танк, и мы
everything
хотим
ends
новый
up
танк, у них новый самолет, и мы
with,
хотим новый
feature
самолет, и
rates.
все
So,
к этому сводится. А при этом те,
the
кто
competitor has a new tank,
гибать,
and we get
они
a new
растут,
tank.
копятся, и с каждым разом
They
все становится
develop a
все
new
хуже,
plane, and
менее
we
стабильно, и при
add a
этом
new
тебя,
plane.
как
But the number of bugs is
за это
growing,
начинают
and finally you as a lead
наказывать. Вот. И когда ты продавливаешь идею о том, что ребятам надо остановиться, выдохнуть,
are punished
закрыть
for this,
вдох и отложить.
for these bugs. And sometimes
Нельзя,
it's
отток,
better
падать,
to postpone adding
всё,
other features,
дал,
but
и до свидания.
they say,
Как в
no, you
этом
can't
жить
stop doing
и не
this because
спиться?
the competitors
Да, мне не спится.
added
А,
and have to catch up. with them.
Это, да, это и правда
To
самая
sleep
больная
well,
тема. Постоянно
such
увеличивается технический
situation.
долг и
Well,
количество
yes,
багов, потому
technical
что они
debt
действительно
and
есть.
number of bugs growing. Yes, this is a problem.
Известно,
Bugs
протестировать
are always
все
there, and
невозможно, всегда найдется. И они
we all know
повышаются,
that it's not
иногда
possible to test everything, and
прогресс
sometimes
растет
they're
количество.
growing
У нас на проекте сейчас
rapidly.
был Worship Legends, и до этого
Progression,
на
and
кораблях. И
in
было
our
введено
projects we have
отрезки триажей.
implemented
Это не замещение, то есть мы не берем отрезок времени, говорим, все, мы фичами не занимаемся, а работаем только по багам.
like time periods. So it's like
Выделяется
a time
определенное
period
время, когда
when we
триажатся баги, смотрится, что можно зачинить,
fix
а что
the
было
bugs. We
отложено,
analyze the bugs,
чем
first
можно заняться
see
сейчас,
what can be
после
fixed,
этого
what can be
просто
put in the backlog,
И
what can be done now,
Есть-
what's been put
есть
in the
моменты,
backlog
когда
earlier,
вся
and
команда выходит,
there
но
is
это отрезок
some,
там 3-4 дня.
there can be some time
Откладывать
period
фичи
of 3-4
занимается
days
А
when
есть моменты, когда
everybody
часть
is
команды,
talks
по несколько
developing
представителей
features
от
and
разных направлений,
on
и садятся
fixing
в этот
bugs.
баг. Это
Or
не
sometimes
полностью уменьшает
involve only
технический долг,
some
но
specific
оно
experts who
начинает
are
его
fixing bugs
притормаживать, потому что оно все равно
instead
нарабатывается,
of
все
making
равно.
features. But it of
Ты
course
вроде
helps
все
to
протестировал, выпустил на
slow
продажу,
down
попался.
the process of
Просто потому
bugs
что здесь у нас 10 человек, а там
accumulation,
сотни тысяч.
but still
Ну, но система триажей, она работает.
number of bugs
То есть
is
выделение или
growing, but the
времени,
system
или
of
короткого отрезка
like
времени,
so-called time
либо
periods of
выделение
3G
отдельных
is working.
специалистов,
It's when
разработчиков
everybody's
для решения.
stops doing what they're doing and just fix bugs for some during some short period of time.
Еще
Or
вопросы?
when only some experts do this.
Спасибо большое за доклад.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a small question. You mentioned mentorship, and what shall we do when there are no mentors or there is no possibility to involve mentors? When you just testing yourself, you have only one partner and you cannot count on him. So what can you do in this situation? How can you monitor your progress? How to develop
Нет,
further?
нет.
What can be done actually in this case? Well,
Тоже был пример. Я
There was
потом мой переход в релизную команду. У нас
example
тоже
in
было
my
такое.
career.
Но
I,
И
when I moved to
так как нас было двое,
release,
мне нужно было, во-первых, следить за тем, как
and there were two of us,
Поможет.
and as there were two of
сам
us,
развивается,
I
что
had
делает.
to monitor not only
И
myself but my partner as well.
Здесь мы начали активно передавать
And
задачи.
that's
То
when
есть,
we started to
какой-то скоп задач под
transfer
минимальным
the
контролем
tasks
выдавался.
effectively. So some
И,
scope of tasks
Ну,
was
могу сказать, что
located
это
under
вот
some
прям
minimum
случай, о
control,
котором
and
вы
probably
спрашивали,
that's
но
not
в
exactly what you
какой-то
mean
момент
with your
получилось так,
question. But
что
at some point in
любая
time,
экспертиза, она
his
основала
expertise
Сейчас это руководитель
grew
релизного
higher
отдела.
than mine, and now
И он
he's head of the release department.
на каком-то этапе я уже сам его спрашивал, что мне
Ships
нужно
game,
делать.
and at some
Для
stage I started
передачи
asking him
задач и
myself,
все,
what
что возможно.
to
И
do in this
он очень
organization.
быстро
And
стал
he
самостоятельным.
became
То
independent
есть,
quite quickly.
как сказать,
And
отсутствие меня как куратора, потому что я загружен другими делами,
myself
дала
as
ему
a
толчок
mentor,
постоянно
I
развиваться
pushed
и
him to develop
искать новые методы
to
и
look for
практики,
new
чем
ways
мы
and
заниматься.
methods.
Факт вопрос. Здесь больше
That's how
самостоятельности именно человека.
improved his
Вряд ли
skills.
ответил, но
Well,
не
this
знаю,
is
как это
all about independence of person.
сформулировать.
Something can be done independently
Вам спасибо, я
without
обязательно
being
подумаю об
involved.
этом.
But thank you, I will think about
Еще
that
вопрос?
later. Any other questions?
Тогда выбираем лучше.
Then let's choose the best.
Лучше был
question.
самый первый вопрос.
The first one was the best.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you.
Спасибо большое. Если у вас еще есть вопросы, нет для презентации, а так просто поболтать, я здесь, где-то хожу, что подходите, спрашивайте. Спасибо.
Всем спасибо.
If you have any questions, please